You know the old saying, ring out the old and ring in the new? Well, one manufacturer is hoping to ring in a grand year. That's this week on Motoring 2006.
TSN's Motoring 2006 is brought to you by the new Q from Quaker State. Unleash all your horses.
Olympic Winter Games in 2010 are awarded to the city of Vancouver.
This was the scene earlier this year in Prague, Czechoslovakia, when Vancouver was selected as the host city for the 2010 Winter Olympics. And as you can see, construction is in full swing as this city prepares to host the world. Well, we thought we'd stay with the athletic theme this week on Motoring. I'm at the float plane dock in Vancouver Harbor. We're about to head to Whistler, where Suzuki is about to launch what it calls its off-road athlete, the all-new second-generation Grand Vitara.
You know, for the past 25 years, Suzuki has had the mini ute market all to themselves. Then came Subaru, Honda and Toyota. Well, on this edition of Test Drive, we take a look at their response to those three vehicles. This is the all-new Grand Vitara.
Yeah, 1998, September, we were here at Whistler with the 1999 Grand Vitara. That vehicle immediately sold 4,000 units in the first year, and it's sort of now reaching the end of its life cycle and is being replaced by this new one. So again, we hope we're going to sell well over 4,000 in the first year with this new vehicle. Off-road athlete's the new term we've established to design our brand new 2006 Grand Vitara around. The masculinity of an athlete, the off-road prowess, the muscle, the sleekness. Our designers have taken that as their structure and modeled the vehicle around them to give it the sleek design look of an athlete, but also give it the underpinnings of a true off-road vehicle with the muscle and reliability and durability to do that. There's not one part off the current Grand Vitara being put into the brand new one. They've gone right back to the drawing board, basically. Started all over. Independent suspension, unibody, but a built-in ladder frame. Everything we've put into it, it's wider, it's longer, the wheelbase, the cargo area, all the features, amenities, all brand new. Powertrain is a 2.7 liter V6, 185 horsepower, 5-speed automatic transmission. It's available with a stick. It has 4-mode off-road capability in a leather model. All the vehicles are a full-time 4x4 system.
I think this is a major leap forward for them in almost every way. It's a more refined, sophisticated vehicle in their SUV range. There was nothing really crude about the old Grand Vitara or the XL7, but this is a much more refined vehicle. It doesn't leap out and grab you in a crowd. Stylistically, it's conservative. There's a lot of shades of RAV4 in there. If you look at it from certain angles, I see a slightly bigger RAV4. But no, all in all, I think they've done their homework.
I haven't spent much time in the previous Grand Vitara, but the time I did spend, although I understand it was a big step forward, I don't think it's a very strong competitor for the existing small SUVs in the market. I think the new one really is. I think it's got the right look. In fact, in the back, it looks a bit like a Grand Cherokee. In the front, like a Saab 97X, which is saying a lot for something that costs 20 to 30 grand.
The concept of a 4x4 truck is in most people's minds that I can go anywhere. And today we sent you pretty well anywhere, up into the mountains, down the cliffs, over the rocks and boulders, so you could see what a true 4x4 truck like ours can do. And most consumers, I think, buy the image and that attitude, but rarely do they do it. But they're willing to pay to know that that truck will last, it'll be durable, it'll be reliable for many years to come. If it can do that, then I can drive it down a snowy road or down to the cottage and not have any fear of ever having any repairs required.
We're big fans of the Rio, and I'd like to see more Suzuki vehicles engineered by Suzuki, like the Rio and like the new Grand Vitara, as opposed to rebadged Daewoo products. They have a real brand character, and you can see they have a certain energy in their company, and their best products are the products that they engineer.
This truck now is the rebirth of Suzuki in Canada. It is the launching pad for numerous vehicles to come. We're hoping and positively introducing 3 more models next year into the Canadian market. So the Grand Vitara is a new design, it's a new look, it's a new strategy, a new approach for the company as we start to expand our lineup in the Canadian market.
I think they will do well. I mean, the money they're talking, 24 and change to start, that's pretty aggressive, because you're getting a bigger V6 engine than, well, you're getting a bigger engine anyway than the competition. You're getting quite a roomy body. For 24 and change, I think you're getting a very interesting vehicle that would cost you $2,000 or $3,000 more with the more prominent competition.
This truck has been well thought out. In fact, at this event here, we've brought 14 engineers from Japan that were totally involved in building every piece of this truck, and that's how committed the factory is to not only this vehicle, but to Suzuki in Canada for now and the future.
Planes, guns, and automobiles? It all becomes clear later on Kenzie's Corner.
You know, when Kia came to Canada, it did so with a rather crappy portfolio. You only need to think Zephyr and Sportage. Well, it's in the midst of a major league turnaround, and this all-new Rio is going to play a substantial role. Offered in both sedan and 5-door hatchbacks, the new Rio boasts much more room thanks to a 90mm stretch in the wheelbase, which is now up to 2,500mm. There's also a 20mm increase in the width. To put this into perspective, well, it has as much interior room as a Toyota Corolla or Honda Civic. You know, the tendency when you look at the Rio is to have low expectations, but you know what? You should have anything but. The materials are top class, they're bolted and screwed together in a very nice manner, the seats are comfortable, the driver even gets an armrest. You also get a tack, which is great when you've got a 5-speed manual. And if you go with the Rio 5, well, you also get power locks, windows, mirrors, and so on. There are, however, 2 things that are worthy of note. One disappointing, the other very surprising. The disappointment, well, you cannot get cruise control, which is a shame. The nice part, however, well, this thing comes with bottom warmers, which is a first at this end of the market. One of the key upgrades is found under the hood. A new 1.6-litre twin-cam 4-cylinder engine that employs variable valve timing on the intake camshaft. While the numbers it generates, 110 horses and 107 pounds-feet of torque, are not earth-shattering, it does manage to deliver lively performance. Testing put the 0 to 100k time at a smidge under 10 seconds. Again, hardly earth-shattering, but more than acceptable and ahead of much of its immediate competition. It's also quiet even when worked at the top end of the rev range, which is a very pleasant departure from the past. Around at the back end of this Rio 5 you get everything you need. A rear wash wiper, which is a must considering the hatchback design. You get a decent privacy cover, seats that actually recline. With them up, 15.8 cubic feet. Flop both halves down forward, which is done that simply, and well, it grows to almost 50 cubic feet. There's also one other thing. You also get a surprising amount of room in the back seat considering the car's external dimensions. Part of the reason for the gutsy feel, at least at the low end, is down to the ratios in the slick 5-speed manual box. First and second are low enough to deliver surprising snap off the line, while fifth delivers comfortable cruising. If there is a quibble, it's that when in 5th gear there's very little poop left, meaning a long uphill climb or passing a slower vehicle, well, it mandates a downshift. or two. You know, all of that muss and fuss tells you you cannot get anti-lock brakes on this Kia Rio. So tell me, do you think that means that Kia thinks less of the relative safety of the affordable car buyer than it does of somebody that says buys a Magentis? Well, I sincerely hope not, and I sincerely hope they change their minds and add ABS as an option. The 2006 Rio is suspended on McPherson struts up front and a simple twist beam in the rear. While the lot is calibrated to deliver comfort more than outright handling, the Rio is no slouch when pushed. Through the pylons, it more than proved itself. Certainly there's a degree of body roll, and understeer is not difficult to induce, but the manner in which the car reacts to driver input is more than up to class standards and then some. The response to steering input, for example, is crisp, and once the suspension takes a set, the Rio rides out a corner rather well. This is particularly true of the Rio 5 Sport and its larger 185/65 R14 tyres, as they make an appreciable difference to the overall feel. You know, this new Rio's got an awful lot going for it. It's comfortable, it's got adequate power, and it's got the versatility demanded of a hatchback. It could do with anti-lock brakes, but you know what? I'm convinced Kia's going to address that situation. The bottom line, the sum of its attributes exceeds its asking price.
Time to update our long-term Subaru Forester. As we all know, this company has been an exclusively all-wheel car manufacturer in North America even before all-wheel was the in thing, so to speak. Now, in good weather, you wouldn't even know it's all-wheel unless the roads are wet. But in the winter weather, it's like gold. We got caught with an early snowfall before putting our winter tires on all four wheels, but even with the summer tires, the Forester navigated the wet stuff like a hot knife through butter, no slipping or sliding. Now, our Forester comes equipped with a turbocharger, and I've heard some complaints about turbo lag. Well, I've not found that problem. In fact, the turbo gives this car incredible pep off the line, and more importantly, in passing situations. The Forester is small compared to your average sport utility, but is it small in the cargo area like most sport utes are? Well, we'll check that out in our next update.
A lot of people spend $40,000, $50,000, $70,000 on a new vehicle, and what they want to make sure is that that they're comfortable in getting their car back if it's stolen. Sometimes we'll track them for a while, and if we can't find them, we'll actually send them by helicopter to improve our tracking capabilities. So we'll stop at nothing to get that car back.
Testass was originally established and has been modified and updated every year for 22 years now to provide Canadian consumers with unbiased, accurate information about any new product on the market, not existing, but new. The idea being that the consumers can look at what we've done here and because we've compared the new models in each category and take that to the bank.
We have about 62 vehicles here that we're testing. The vehicles are divided into categories, and journalists take all of the vehicles from each of the categories out on drive loops and onto the track or off-road in the case of SUVs and pickups. The journalists then vote for each of those cars, and we end up with 10 category winners. Those category winners are then sent back to the voting journalists at AJAC, and then we select from the car category winners, we select a car of the year, we vote for it, and similarly for the truck of the year, that's a vehicle from the pickups or SUVs. Anyone who is a registered member of AJAC is certainly eligible to be a part of this event.
It is the tightest group, I think, that I've seen. I mean, last year it was pretty much down to 2 vehicles. You knew it kind of coming in. And now it's going to be a very, very close thing, I think. And as for picking one, I think maybe Civic might slip in from one of the groups. I mean, I think it's going to win one of the groups that's entered in, whether it's the coupe or the sedan or whatever.
I'm thinking that possibly the Honda Civic might might win it this year. It's a beautifully engineered vehicle. The price is very competitive. The standard features are extensive, and you know it's a compact car, but it almost has an intermediate car feel to it.
It ranges from Civic to Corvette. Those seem to be the two leaders there, although the Civic is difficult because it's in 3 different classes, but especially the bottom end, it's such a huge amount of value. So I'm picking Civic.
Well, it's a really tough choice this year because there's so many good products out here, but I think the car of the year this year is going to be also the best-selling car, and that's the Honda Civic.
I think it's going to come down to the Hyundai Sonata. Because the field was so wide open, it was anybody's trophy to take, and I think if that car wins its class, it could go all the way.
My choice would be the Corvette Z06, but I think the Civic takes it just simply because there's so much refinement, so much car there for the same amount of money as the Civic has always been.
You know, Suzuki has been building sport utility vehicles for over 35 years. All have been body-on-frame construction. Well, the new Grand Vitara is unibody. Is one better than the other? Let's ask our man in the Quaker State Garage, Bill Gardner.
Hey Brad, what hasn't changed in the automotive business in the last 35 years? The answer is everything's changed. You know, there's nothing wrong with a unibody construction vehicle for light duty use. So whether it's a car, sport utility, van, or pickup, unibody's probably the way to go. Saves you weight, fewer squeaks and rattles. You can have a lower center of gravity. You know, there's a lot of advantages. To me, the big advantage is in the weight department. You know, a vehicle that's got a full ladder type frame like this full-size pickup has to be inherently heavier just by its very design. Now when you talk about a unibody vehicle, think about that body structure that you see, that steel box of that vehicle, and imagine it just gusseted and reinforced underneath, and that's your entire chassis. Now in a vehicle like this, you've got an actual frame underneath it. They often refer to it as a ladder type frame because the frame rails resemble the side rails of your ladder, and the cross members in the frame resemble the rungs in your ladder. Now your entire suspension and powertrain is anchored off that ladder type frame on a vehicle like this full-size pickup truck. And that's still your best bet for heavy duty usage on a vehicle, or if you want to tow a really heavy trailer, because you've got your frame rails ending right here at the rear bumper. You can put a frame hitch across those and tow a really heavy duty trailer. So if you've got horse trailers or construction equipment you're towing with a 4x4 pickup, that's still your best bet. But think about it, Honda just went to a unibody construction for their first ever pickup truck, the Ridgeline, the one you see behind me. No problem there. And also the Grand Vitara, obviously going to unibody. And last year Mercedes got rid of the ladder type frame in their ML Sport Utility, and they went unibody for obvious advantages there as well. So depending on the type of vehicle you're talking about, there's advantages to both. Now GM on their Savannah and Express full-size vans in '96 went away from unibody to a full frame because there were advantages there on a heavy-duty vehicle. So depending on what you're talking about, there's advantages on both sides of that scale. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 2006.
Handguns, a big issue in the federal election, right? Well, I don't want my young people dying of gunfire. I don't want them dying of AIDS or of diabetes or any one of a number of diseases. But can we have a little perspective? The #1 cause of death to people up to the age of 44 isn't handguns, it isn't any disease, it's car crashes. Now, we've made progress over the last 25 years from over 5,000 deaths on our road every year to under 3,000. But since when is 3,000 deaths acceptable? That's a major plane crash every month. Not to mention the cost. One estimate of the total cost of car crashes, look at healthcare, lost wages, lost productivity, $25 billion. That's billion with a B. That's more than I make in a month. Folks, we've got to try and focus on this. We've made progress in the cars. We've got airbags and seat belts and ABS and directional stability control. We've got better roads with more controlled access highways and better traffic management systems. The one area we haven't made any progress on is the one area that causes most of the crashes. Driver error. The problem is here. Collectively, we don't know how to drive. It's not that we're bad people. We don't want to be lousy drivers. We just are, because we've never been trained. And that's particularly stupid in this country because we have some of the best driver training systems in the entire world right here. Why don't we use them? Because the government doesn't insist that we use them. We've got people in uniform sitting in that right seat signing off on drivers who haven't got a clue. So governments, I know I've been whining about this for 20 years. I'm seeing very little progress. Okay, a couple of graduated licensing programs here and there, which have been effective. We've got a long way to go. We've got to make the training tougher. We've got to retest every 5 years because even the best drivers lose their skills with time. It's about time to do something about it, okay? I don't want my young kids being killed by some other lousy driver. I'm Jim Kenzie.
You know, automobile manufacturers are continually updating and refreshing their models, and it's no secret why Suzuki is introducing the all-new Grand Vitara. When this vehicle was first introduced in 1998, they were selling over 4,000 annually. Well, that figure dropped to only 800 in 2005. Now, as for the new vehicle, which of course they're expecting big things from, it's got a lot of room inside, and definitely it's a big improvement over the old Grand Vitara. But I do have one suggestion. One of the vehicles I was driving this week was a nice bright red color. And then I found out later it's only available in the United States. Now come on, if you want to stand out in a crowd, that's the color that's going to do it, and it's going to attract not only the young, but even old guys like me. Anyway, that's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
I believe that people are allowed to drive whatever they want to drive. That's the benefit of a free system. And truthfully, if people didn't want sport utility vehicles anymore, they would stop buying them. So once they decide that the fuel economy is too bad for them and the cost is too high, they're going to stop voting. They'll stop voting with their wallet.
TSN's Motoring 2006 has been brought to you by the new Q from Quaker State. Unleash all your horses.